What you just did is punishable by death. You will never do it again. Never.
When you raise a predator, you cannot be surprised when it eventually turns its teeth on you. For a decade and a half, Cersei Lannister cultivated her son's cruelty. She shielded him from consequence. She taught him that anyone who wasn't a Lannister was prey. She believed she was forging a king that she could control from the shadows. But in Season 2, Cersei walks into the Great Hall and experiences a terrifying psychological rupture. She realizes the remote control is broken. The weapon she built has achieved sentience. Today, we are placing one of the most chilling mother-son interactions in television history under a microscope. We are abandoning standard reviews to conduct a clinical behavioral profile of Joffrey Baratheon. We will explore a legal concept called Lèse-majesté, unpack a devastating psychological trigger known as Narcissistic Mortification, and reveal the tragic real-world fallout that forced the actor behind this monster to vanish from Hollywood entirely. Let's step into the throne room and observe the exact minute the Queen Mother became just another hostage. To measure the atmospheric pressure in this room, you have to look at who isn't here. King Robert is dead. Tywin Lannister is fighting a war in the Riverlands. Jaime Lannister is a prisoner in a Stark dungeon. The men who traditionally exert gravitational pull over Joffrey are absent. Cersei believes this is her moment of absolute supremacy. She is the Queen Regent. But as she walks into the Great Hall, she notices the physical environment is being altered without her permission. Joffrey is actively erasing the Baratheon legacy from the walls. He is redesigning the architecture to match his ego. Cersei walks in expecting to advise a teenager. She doesn't realize she is walking into the den of an autocrat.
What is all this?
Turning this room to its proper appearance. Say what you will about the Targaryens, they were conquerors. That is a seat for a conqueror. It needs a room to match it, not vines and flowers.
This is spatial entitlement. Spatial entitlement is the psychological assumption that one's environment must physically reflect one's perceived internal greatness. Joffrey rejects the vines and flowers, which is a direct insult to the softer, more diplomatic aesthetics of the court. He aligns himself with the Targaryens, the dynasty his father, Robert, destroyed. Joffrey is engaging in spatial entitlement. He hasn't conquered anything, yet he demands the visual aesthetic of a warlord. He is wearing the costume of a tyrant without doing the work.
We can't find Arya Stark.
Well, it's luck she's dead in a ditch somewhere.
Perhaps, but if not, we need her. They'll never give Jaime back to us for Sansa alone.
I think they might. They're weak. They put too much value on their women.
Cersei attempts to steer the conversation toward geopolitical survival. They have lost Arya, a crucial, high-value hostage. Joffrey's response, with luck, she's dead, showcases his absolute lack of strategic foresight. He prefers the immediate satisfaction of a dead enemy over the long-term utility of a living prisoner. But his final line is the most revealing. They put too much value on their women. He equates empathy and familial love with weakness. In Joffrey's deformed worldview, caring about a woman makes a man inferior. He says this directly to his mother, entirely blind to the irony that his mother is the only reason he is sitting on that chair.
We need to set our armies to the task of finding her. Send out as many men as we can. I'm sure if you asked Grandfather...
A king does not ask, he commands. My grandfather's stupidity in the field of battle is the reason Robb Stark is Uncle Jaime in the first place.
This is truculence. Truculence is an eager or quick to argue or fight, aggressively defiant. Cersei suggests asking Tywin for help. Joffrey reacts with explosive truculence. The idea of requesting assistance threatens his fragile ego. The king does not ask. He then commits verbal heresy. He calls Tywin Lannister stupid. To the audience, this is laughable. Tywin is a tactical genius. Joffrey is a child. But to Cersei, this is paralyzing. If Joffrey does not respect Tywin Lannister, then Joffrey is utterly untethered from reality. He is a rogue missile.
His life is in danger.
We're at war. All our lives are in danger. I heard a disgusting lie about Uncle Jamie. And you?
Cersei pleads for Jaime's life. Joffrey swats the concern away with a cliché, "We're at war." Then he drops the guillotine. I heard a disgusting lie. Joffrey does not care about Jaime's safety. He brings up the incest rumor not because he is seeking the truth, but because he wants to observe his mother squirm. He is testing his ability to inflict psychological discomfort on his creator.
Our enemies will say anything to weaken your claim to the throne.
It's not a claim. The throne is mine.
Of course it is. No one believes this foul gossip.
Someone believes it.
Cersei attempts a frantic semantic downgrade. She uses the word claim. Joffrey violently rejects the vocabulary. It's not a claim. The throne is mine. A claim implies a dispute. Joffrey's ego cannot tolerate a dispute. Cersei tries to pacify him with absolute denial. No one believes this. Joffrey counters with chilling precision. Someone believes it. In the books, Stannis Baratheon has mailed hundreds of letters across the entire continent exposing the incest. It isn't a whisper, it is a global broadcast. Joffrey is pointing out that Cersei's strategy of simply ignoring the rumor is a catastrophic failure.
Father had other children, besides me and Tom and Marcella.
What are you asking?
I'm asking if he fucked other women when he grew tired of you. How many bastards does he have running?
Joffrey asks about Robert's bastards. But look at his phrasing. He doesn't ask about Robert's infidelity. He frames it as a failure on Cersei's part. When he grew tired of you. He reduces the Queen Regent to a discarded, sexually inadequate object. He targets her vanity and her pride simultaneously. This triggers narcissistic mortification, the intense fear and rage felt when a flawed self-image is suddenly exposed. Cersei's response is a physical slap. In behavioral science, when an authority figure resorts to physical violence against a dependent, it is an admission that they have exhausted all their intellectual and psychological leverage. Cersei slaps him because her words have failed. She is out of ammunition.
What you just did is punishable by death. You will never do it again. Never. That will be all, Mother.
This is Lèse-majesté. Lèse-majesté is the doing of a presumptuous or treasonous act against the sovereign or the state. Cersei expects him to cry or to throw a tantrum like a child. Instead, Joffrey's eyes go completely dead. He invokes Lèse-majesté. He reminds her of the cold, legal reality of the room. I am the state. You just assaulted the state. I have the legal authority to sever your head from your neck. That will be all, Mother. He dismisses her like a servant. Joffrey isn't throwing a fit. He is asserting absolute, terrifying autocracy. To understand why this specific conversation is so lethal, we must look at the immediate aftermath. Cersei walked out of this room believing she had shut the conversation down with a slap. She assumed the topic of Robert's bastards was closed. She was catastrophically wrong. Because Joffrey realized his mother would not handle the problem, he bypassed her entirely. He went directly to Janos Slynt, the commander of the City Watch. Joffrey ordered the systematic slaughter of every single one of Robert Baratheon's illegitimate children in King's Landing. He ordered infants to be murdered in brothels. In George R.R. Martin's books, Cersei actually ordered the deaths of specific bastards herself, like the twins at Casterly Rock. But the showrunners made a brilliant psychological pivot. The show assigns this specific, sweeping massacre entirely to Joffrey. Why? To prove he is now operating completely independently. This is the ultimate consequence of Cersei losing the leash. Her son took her paranoia, amplified it with his own psychopathy, and executed a mass murder without asking her permission. The slap didn't assert Cersei's dominance, it finalized her irrelevance. To fully process the depth of this video, let's pause and review the Profilers Lexicon, the advanced psychological and English terms we use to decode this scene. These concepts explain exactly how tyrants operate. Spatial entitlement. We saw this when Joffrey demanded the throne room match his ego. It is the psychological belief that your physical environment must bend and mutate to reflect your perceived internal greatness. Truculence. The aggressive, defiant eagerness to argue. Joffrey displays this the moment Tywin's name is mentioned, rejecting actual wisdom purely to protect his own brittle pride. Narcissistic mortification. The intense fear, rage, and humiliation a narcissist feels when their flawed self-image is suddenly exposed. Cersei experienced this when Joffrey implied King Robert grew tired of her, leading directly to her loss of control and the slap. Lèse-majesté, a French and legal term meaning to do wrong to majesty. It is the treasonous act of striking or insulting a sovereign. Joffrey weaponized this ancient law to completely strip Cersei of her motherhood and turn her into a legal subordinate. What happens when you portray evil so flawlessly that the world forgets you are merely wearing a mask? To fully appreciate the gravity of this scene, we must step outside of Westeros and look at the man who brought this monster to life, Jack Gleeson. Gleason was just 17 years old when he took on the role of Joffrey Baratheon. He didn't just act the part, he became the definitive villain of modern television. His sneers, his cruelty, his dead-eyed entitlement were so visceral that millions of viewers experienced a psychological phenomenon known as parasocial transference. Parasocial transference is when an audience unconsciously redirects their intense emotional reactions for a fictional character onto the real-world actor portraying them. The hatred for Joffrey bled into reality. Gleason was subjected to an onslaught of harassment. He received death threats. Strangers shouted venomous insults at him on the street. The global audience proved incapable of separating the fiction on their screens from the young philosophy student standing in front of them. Gleason paid the psychological toll for his own spectacular talent. And so, off-screen, he executed a move of profound self-preservation. After his character's death in Season 4, at the height of his global fame, Jack Gleeson walked away. He quit television acting by choice, returning to academia and private theater. It is a stark, real-world lesson. We live in a society that often punishes the artists who mirror our darkest traits back to us. Sometimes the most powerful move a person can make is realizing a toxic environment cannot be fixed and simply choosing to leave the stage. Cersei Lannister walked into the Great Hall believing she was the architect of the future. She walked out, realizing she was merely a captive to her own creation. She had spent her life manipulating the truth to protect Joffrey, only to discover that Joffrey had no loyalty to anyone but his own ego. The slap she delivered wasn't a punishment for a disobedient child. It was the desperate, flailing strike of a woman realizing she was drowning. Joffrey's chilling response proved that absolute power in the hands of a sociopath eradicates the very concept of family. What is your verdict on this confrontation? Was Cersei's slap an act of righteous parenting or the ultimate admission of her own political failure? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.